Maran here, and I'm doing another video here on the brand new 2019 Hyundai Veloster Turbo R-spec. So I already did a full review on this vehicle, so if you're curious to hear my thoughts on the interior and all my in-depth analysis on the Veloster Turbo, especially the automatic, you'll definitely want to go watch that video, which I can link above. This one though, the R-spec, is the manual only, and this is the one to get. Cliff notes, this is the Veloster Turbo to get. It is just fantastic. So Hyundai dropped one off at my house here for a whole week to drive, and this thing just is a little go-kart. I love the way this thing handles. It's just, especially in sport mode, it really comes alive. But these Michelins just transformed this car. That combined with the independent rear suspension they get for 2019 just makes this thing a riot. I mean, it just has grip galore. I love it's just so small and light, so that makes it just so nimble, so effortless, and it honestly just feels like almost as good as a GTI. It's actually a little simpler than a GTI, a little lighter feeling than even that, and so it is a fantastically fun little vehicle that, I mean, you don't really have any body room. I mean, it just goes and goes. And so one of the other new things you get with the R-spec here is this Pnm Short Shifter, which is so satisfying to use in combination with this engine. It's so much fun to rip through the gears. And I posted on Instagram whenever I first got this vehicle in last week, and someone asked me to keep an eye out for Rev Hang, and I can say there is a little bit of Rev Hang sometimes when you're really hammering on it. Like there, you might have heard as I was mid-shift, it kind of hung up a little bit more, didn't drop down quite as quickly as you would usually expect it to. But Rev Hang is a really common thing these days. The Civic Si also suffers from this, and many other, the WRX suffers from it as well. So I think it's just getting so commonplace these days that it doesn't really bother me, and I would say in this vehicle in particular, it didn't bother me. Now, there are times where it did kind of irk me a little bit. For example, in the manual 1.5 liter Accord Sport, that had and I kind of noticed it getting in my way a little bit more. In this, it never really hindered me or upset me too much. So I don't think the Rev Hang is something to be too worried about. Turbo lag is also something that you have a little bit of here, and it's not too bad though. You know, you have a little bit, and it's just, you have to just wait a beat after you're shifting if you're not in the peak boost range there before it really comes on. But I've really only noticed that mostly whenever you're not in sport mode. Once you go into sport mode, then it seems to have that overboost function where it's a little more eager. I actually get a little more wastegate sound as well, but it sounds more eager, it feels more eager to just give me the full boost a little quicker, and pulls really strong. The only couple things during my week of driving here that bothered me was the stereo's a little weak. It's this Infinity 8-speaker stereo, and it sounds okay once you crank it up, but you got to turn it up like halfway to get decent volume out of it. So, you know, just a little, I mean, if you're on the highway and you have the windows down, you want to crank it up, I mean, you really got to crank this thing up to, you know, get good sound out of it. So, you know, that's not a huge deal, but, you know, to be expected, you know, in a vehicle of this class and this price. You know, obviously whenever I did my review of this vehicle, I also complained about the interior plastics a little bit, but that's very forgivable at this price point, and that's why I said in the beginning, this is the one to get. The R-spec is definitely the best value of the bunch. You can get the manual, thankfully, in the regular Veloster Turbo, the non-R-spec, if you want the leather seats and the wireless charging pad, the little heads-up display that pops out of the dashboard and stuff like that. You can get those things, but personally, I think that this one, you know, has enough in this interior here to keep most people happy. You know, if you don't care about heated seats, you don't care about you know, all those little toys, you still have a great infotainment system here with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and honestly, that's really all you need. I think, you know, all the other stuff is nice little toys, but, you know, for those who just want a more bare bones, fun, enthusiast vehicle, I think this interior is just fine. just so satisfying to rip through these gears. One thing though, another thing that I can kind of complain about a little bit is I wish there was a little bit of a throw to your exhaust. You know, you have a decent amount of engine noise. You do have this enhanced sound management thing that's electronic, that's piped in through the speakers as well, and that sounds good as well. I actually don't have any gripes about that whatsoever. I think it all sounds good coming out of the front here. I just wish there was a little more behind me that I could hear, because I think it could sound good if you gave it a nice exhaust. And you know, now that we have the Veloster N coming, it'd be nice if there was maybe some like N performance parts you could get from the dealer or something, or as a configuration option. You know, there's a lot of companies offering aftermarket exhaust these days, or you know, some type of active exhaust with the different modes or something, and that might be a little too fancy for, you know, $24,000 Hyundai. But I think it could be something if people are willing to pay the extra $1,000, give it to them. And so I think that'd be a really great thing to add in the future, you know, just for those who do want a little more sound. So I think it certainly could use it, and I'll be curious to hear, you know, how the Veloster N actually sounds as well. But yeah, this thing, it just feels so good. And a couple other people were asking me on Instagram to compare this to some of the competition. And that's something I didn't really do in my review of the new Veloster here. And so some of the main vehicles people were interested in is how does it compare to like the Focus ST and Fiesta ST. And I can say Focus ST, you know, these days, even though MSRP prices are way higher than this, the reality is there's lots of discounts. You can get Focus ST oftentimes for a very similar price point as this, you know, right under $24,000, $23,785 is what this test vehicle is going for here. And so at those prices, yes, the Focus ST has more punch. You got 260 horsepower. It's a full, you know, 59 more than you have in this. So it's going to feel punchier in a straight line. But you also feel like you're sitting up higher, and it doesn't handle nearly as well. It's a heavier, larger feeling vehicle. So you kind of lose out on some of this small experience. Honestly, the thing that this vehicle keeps reminding me of is my old Mini Cooper S. I had an R56 Mini Cooper S, a 2008, and this feels really similar to that, with just the small dimensions, you know, very shorter wheelbase and everything. It's really nice and tight in every way. And honestly, this drives way better than that Mini actually did. But it has that same level of fun that I had in my Mini. It's really satisfying. So yes, if you want more straight line power, by all means go for a Focus ST. But I think you're not gonna miss the power a whole lot, because a lot of that power gets lost in the Focus ST with just tons of wheel spin. This puts all the power to the ground, and so you actually, I'd be curious to see a drag race between this and a Focus ST, because I feel like it'd be fairly close. I could be totally off on that, but you know, this doesn't really feel much slower than a Focus ST, honestly. Another vehicle everyone wanted me to compare it to was the Fiesta St, and that's a little more comparable. You know, we have similar power outputs and sizes and stuff, and so the Fiesta St, you also feel like you're sitting up a little bit higher, so that takes away some of the sportiness. That also had more body roll than this does, so this feels, again, you're just lower, and so it's lighter and flatter, and you also feel like you have more power because you do have more power. And add to that the fact that the Fiesta St isn't really going to be around much longer. It has a very dated interior. It's a dated design. Same goes for the Focus. So safety might not be as good as it would be in a brand new, fresh design vehicle, especially Hyundai. You know, they usually, all their new models are 5-star crash test rating vehicles. So if that's something that matters to you, I would certainly say that Veloster has that going for it as well, over those older Fords, which are, you know, going to be soon killed off. So those are the main two. One other competitor, I suppose, is the Civic Si in sedan form. And in sedan form, it's really, you know, it's a longer, bigger vehicle, which is great for practicality if you're going to use back seats all the time. I mean, this is nice to have that third door back there, I think. You know, whenever you do want to have people get in and out of here, it's a little easier than, you know, flipping the seat forward. So I do appreciate this third door, but if you want the full 4-door experience, the Civic Si is a great choice. But again, you're sitting up higher. It's a bigger vehicle. It feels heavier. It's a little more Rev Hang in that as well, and you know, it's just a little more disconnected. Still a fun car in every way, but you know, I feel like this would be my pick, unless you have to have a huge back seat or something. I really think in this price point, I can't think of something I would rather have. You know, like for example, if you want a nicer interior, you can go for like the Corolla hatch, but then you're down 30 horsepower. And so for those who are actually performance minded, this does everything right. It has the Michelins that you want. It has the short shifter already that you want. It has the nice light flat handling. It's got the sport mode to stiffen up the steering, and you know, that overboost function. This has everything the enthusiast wants. And so if that's what you consider yourself as an enthusiast, that, you know, doesn't need all the toys and stuff, I think this is the way to go. Like I said, you could go for the Veloster Turbo. I think it's the ultimate version with a manual. Thankfully, they do give you that option to have that in a manual as well. But honestly, you know, I don't think you gain a lot for that extra $4,000. I think this is, again, the best value of the bunch. And so, I mean, like I said, including destination, $23,785, and the savings doesn't stop there, by the way. Fuel economy is the last thing I want to mention here before I go. So these are rated at 26 in the city, 33 on the highway, for a combined average of 29. Now, I drove this vehicle 188 miles, and in that driving, which wasn't a lot of highway, there was a little bit of highway, but I would say it was definitely at least a 50-50 mix, but probably more city than highway driving. And I still ended up getting 30.6 mpg, including the flogging I just did down that back road and back. And I've been driving this vehicle hard basically all week, and I still got 30.6. So I still got over 1 mpg higher than the combined rating. And to put that into perspective, anyone who watches all my videos and all my reviews, whenever I have a car for a week like this, on average, I see my MPG usually being about 1 MPG less than the city rating. So really, I was expecting to get maybe 25, maybe 26 if I was lucky. So to be pulling over 30 miles to the gallon in this thing, driving it the way that I have been, I am really shocked, honestly, that it's doing as well as it is. Another amazing thing about this fuel economy, though, is that this vehicle, actually, the way the gearing is, it's really short gearing. So it rips, and so that makes, I think that's part of what makes it so fun, is the fact that every gear is so short. So you just rip in every single gear. But, I mean, it doesn't stop in first through fifth, and even sixth gear. You don't even have to downshift on the highway. Sixth gear in this thing, I'm still pulling about 2,600 RPMs at 70 miles an hour on the highway in this, which is, you know, really quite high RPMs. So in addition to the fact that you're going to be saving some money just because these are so affordable to begin with, add to that the fact that you know, you're getting well into the 30s, you know, if you take it easy in this vehicle, and then you're also, you know, saving a good amount of gas money as well. So it's a very economical choice. And like I said, I really am struggling to think of what else I would rather have under $24,000. I think it really does everything. You know, you have a decent amount of storage space. You know, in the trunk there, it's a little deeper than your average hatchback, which I appreciate. You have reusable back seats there, which I appreciate. You know, it really does it all. And yeah, I'm really impressed with it. So anyway, huge thanks to Hyundai for dropping one of these off for me to have here for a week. It's been a blast. Let me know your thoughts on the Veloster Turbo here in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.